Spider-Man No Way Home spoilers. This is a spoiler review. Spoiler alert. Again, best Spider-Man movie hands down that I've ever seen. It starts out right after Far From Home ended when Mysterio revealed his identity, and you start seeing the things how difficult it's making his life because he applied for college, him and his MJ and Ned, and because they said he's a killer and they believe Mysterio, they're getting denied from colleges, and Peter feels like it's his fault because his life is messing up their lives. So then he thinks about how he can change that, and he goes and visits Doctor Strange. And Doctor Strange casts a spell to try to make everybody forget who Peter Parker is, but Peter ends up messing it up similar to the trailer, and it ends up bringing people from other universes who knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man. So it kind of did the opposite of what he wanted. Then immediately you see, I think the next day he's on the bridge, and then in comes Doc Ock. Pretty good entrance, just like the trailer. They fight. He looks at his suit, and once his I'm messing up. I'm sorry. His helmet is off, and he realizes it's not Peter Parker that he knows, and he's trying to figure out what happened. And the scene where he rips off a piece of his chest, his nanotechnology gets into Doc Ock's arms, and then Peter is able to control him. So now he was able to control his arms and stop and pretty much capture Doctor Strange. And then Green Goblin comes in. And that's what you see also in the trailer. And then it cuts out to the next scene. Speaking of Green Goblin, William Dafoe, man, he stole the entire show. Every time he was on the scene, it was all about him. Like, he stole the show every single time. I mean, it was even at one point he was funny. Other points he believed you. He was crazy. Like, his acting in Green Goblin, like in No Way Home, was like really, like for real. He was almost just about as good as Heath Ledger's Joker. Like, but in the Green Goblin style, I wish I could have actually seen more of him. For real, for real. Um. Anyway, Doctor Strange gives him this little wrist thingy. They go find the rest of them and shoot them and zap them and send them back to this little holding cell that he's made for all of them. So ends up running into Electro, and he's like taking energy from these power lines. And then Electro starts shooting at him, and then that's when Sandman comes out and he starts talking to Spider-Man like, "Hey, it's me, Mark Flint. Remember me?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm not sure, Peter. I'm a Peter from a different universe, whatever." Then they rip the power lines from Electro, and then he ends up somehow getting his body back by him doing that. And then they zap him, send him into the thing, and Miss Sandman. So now they're in there and they're talking, and the last thing they all remember is fighting Spider-Man. Like Doc Ock still remembers from the 2004. That's the last thing he remembers. Like, he still think it's the same time. And then Sandman says, "Nah, happened to you. Spider-Man killed both of y'all, you and the Green Goblin." And he didn't believe it, and then they started reminiscing about it, and it was like, "Yep, that's what happened." And they didn't want to get sent back to their times after he got Green Goblin and who else was it? Green Goblin, Electro, Doc Ock. Oh yeah, and Lizard. Doctor Strange that caught the Lizard already. And one more. I said Electro, Lizard, Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Sandman. Oh yeah, Sandman. And then that's when Peter was like, "No, I can't do that," because he always feels like he has to do the right thing. So he tries to stop. He steals the little cube thing from Doctor Strange. Then they have a little fight sequence. Somehow Spider-Man wins because he figures out that Doctor Strange's mirror dimension has something to do with geometry. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Yeah, I'll buy it. And he ends up webbing them up and getting out, and then he sets them free. But then I don't know why he did that. He takes them to the Happy Hogan's house where he's staying, and that's when Green Goblin snaps out from being Norman Osborn to Green Goblin, because he has that personality switch disorder type thing that was in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. And as Peter, he has this new spider sense. It's weird. I don't know. It was like he had a feeling something, I guess, was about to happen, or it's like he knew what Green Goblin was gonna do before he did it, because he could like sense it. And then Norman Osborn snaps back in the Green Goblin. What happened? Damn, somehow a fight ensues. I think maybe he lets off a pumpkin bomb or something. I can't remember, but they all escape, and the building is like messed up, and Aunt May is like running to get away, but then she gets like behind Green Goblin because they're fighting, and he's telling her to move, and then you see Green Goblin use his glider and like hit her right in the back, and it looked like she was done. And then he gets up, runs away, and drops the pumpkin bomb. That's when you see Peter jump at it. He knocks it away, but it explodes like in his face. But he's alright. But then it looks like Aunt May is alright, and I'm like, oh man, she survived that. I'm like, dang. But then she ends up dying, like later on in that scene. And then she tells Peter, with great power comes great responsibility. But Uncle Ben always said that, but in this version, Aunt May dies, and she says it to him. So I thought that was cool. Kind of, it was different. Um, then Peter, obviously, he's extremely sad and upset. And Ned has the ring finger thingy that he got from Doctor Strange, and all of a sudden he knows how to do magic. I don't know, because somehow Ned knows how to open portals apparently, because he has magic in his family. I don't know, whatever. Like I said, all right, I'll buy it. He says, I just wish I could see Peter Parker, and he started doing the circle thing, and then you see somebody in a Spider-Man costume, and immediately I knew this is Andrew Garfield. And I hear the audience, like, they're starting to catch on too, and he comes running, jumps through the portal, and the crowd clapping, right? And then, as soon as he took off his mask, everybody went crazy. It was like, yeah! I was like, dang, well, these people are into this. Like, yeah. And then the next thing, he was like, let's keep doing it until we find the real one. And then he starts doing it, and comes Tobey Maguire. And everyone starts going crazy. Yeah! I'm like, yeah. And MJ brings him to meet uh, Tom Holland Spider-Man. And that's when, they have a talk. He's talking about Tobey's version says he lost Uncle Ben. Andrew says he had Gwen Stacy. And that's when he says, Aunt May said before she died, with great power. And then Tobey Maguire says, with comes great responsibility. And he said Aunt May told him that before he died. And he said Uncle Ben, like how it normally happened, told him before he died. And same thing with Andrew. Then they come up with a plan to cure them all, then send them back to their universes. And in between, you see some little comedy clips, them interacting with each other. It's kind of cool, whatever. Some good funny scenes. Fast forward to the final swinging fight scene, all of them in the uniforms. And they're fighting the Sinister Five. Fight scene is pretty good. I felt like it could have been a little better, a little bit, but it was decent. My second viewing, I was like, the fight scenes could have been a little bit better, but it is what it is. So yeah, Peter ends up curing all of them, but then at the end, oh yeah, in the scene where Green Goblin shows up when Doctor Strange comes back from being captured, from Peter left him in that mirror dimension. He was like, where is he? And he saw that he was curing people. He was like, but he was still looking, he was mad. But then Green Goblin shows up, and he throws a pumpkin bomb into Doctor Strange's little box, and that's what caused the statue and all that stuff to start breaking. And this is when Gwen, just like I mean not Gwen, Mary Jane in the trailer, you see her falling, and Peter jumping to go get her, and right before he does it, like he's about to grab her hand, Green Goblin comes and pushes him right out the way, and everybody's like, "Oh no, she's gonna die!" Then you see Andrew like, "No!" Then everyone's like, "Yeah, yeah!" Because remember in Amazing Spider-Man 2, he tried to save Gwen when Green Goblin threw her off the down into the whatever it was at. I forget the building, the bell or something like that. No, clock tower. It's a clock tower, and he shot his web and he caught her, but right as he caught her, I guess the force caused her to snap her neck, or maybe he kind of hit the back of her head on the ground, whatever. But yeah, so that's why that scene was really, I guess you could say, emotional for a lot of people. And he was like, yeah, it was like he couldn't save Gwen, but he saved MJ. And then he started crying, and the people in the theater were like, oh, yeah. Um, mm. Then you see Tom Holland fighting Green Goblin. He's the last one, and then he's beating him down. He looks like he's gonna kill him. That's when Toby steps in, cause Tom is about to pick up the glider and stab him, and Tom grabs it and is like he's trying to prevent him from doing something, a mistake he did when he thought he found Uncle Ben's killer. And then why he turned his back on the Green Goblin. The Green Goblin stab. Damn, the Green Goblin stabs Toby in the back with some like this blade he got, and then Peter stabs him in the neck with the cure, and he becomes normal again. But then Peter's alright, he somehow just got stabbed in the back by like these predator claws. But whatever, like I said, I believe it. Uh, then they hug one last time, and then Doctor Strange. That's when you see that scene coming. Um, I can't hold them. They're all coming through, and you see reality tearing. And then he says, they're all coming because of you. And then Tom Holland says, all right, well, do another spell. Make everyone forget who Peter Parker is. And then he does it. And then he says goodbye to MJ and Ed. But he says he's going to come find y'all because y'all going to forget who I am. And she's like, what? And he was like, all right, don't worry. I'm going to find you and explain everything. Then he does a spell. And everyone forgets who Peter Parker is. Everybody. Like, Peter Parker never existed. Not they forgot he was Spider-Man. He doesn't exist. Because this was his fault. So, after that, he goes to where MJ was working. And he has like a note in his pocket. But then he sees like Ned and all them come in. And like they all both got accepted in the MIT. And as he's about to, tell MJ who he is and everything, he sees the bandage on her head from when the fight, and because of him. And then he decides not to say anything, and it's kind of sad. And then he walks off because he knew he was better. They were better off without him in their lives. So then you see him in an apartment with GED, because remember everyone forgot who Peter Parker is, so he can't go back to high school. So now he's really like on his own finally, because he always had help in the other Spider-Man movies. Like in the first one, he had Iron Man, and then the second one, he had Nick Fury and the Shield, and now he had the three Doctor Strange and the other two Spider-Mans. It was like their version of Endgame, but like a Spider-Man version. Yeah, I give it a solid 9.5 out of 10. It was the best one, but it wasn't perfect. It wasn't the best MCU movie, but I would say probably maybe the third best after Infinity War and Endgame. Oh yeah, then there's two post credit scenes. One is Venom. Venom is there and he's talking to he's at a bar drunk, and the guy's explaining to him what all the stuff that was going on in his universe. The MCU with Thanos and Iron Man, Hulk, and all of them. And then he ends up getting teleported back to his universe, but then you see some of his Venom is left. I don't know how that's possible, but like I said, I'll believe it. Um, and then a second post credit scene at the end, is the very end, is the trailer for Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, which looks really good. Y'all need to check that out. It should be on YouTube by now. All right, and like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what y'all thought. All right, peace. I'm out. Hey.